Welcome everyone to tonight's talk by Mr. Chin Mee Poon on around the world in 60 minutes. And Mr. Chin Mee Poon is a long-time MNS member. I pass this time over to Mr. Chin, and Mr. Chin Mee Poon, can you? I cross over to you.
Okay. Good evening to everyone. First of all, I must thank Alex Foong and his committee of the photo group of MNS Selangor Branch for giving me this opportunity to share some of my travels and photos with photography lovers like you. My talk this evening is titled Around the World in 60 Minutes. So I must confess that I actually have not done a world trip yet. So the pictures I'm going to show you in this talk are actually from different trips. Different trips, but to different parts of the world, covering all 7 continents. So what I will do is I will spend about 10 minutes speaking, followed by about 30 minutes of slideshow on photos that I've selected from about 30 different trips. Altogether about 300 photographs. And we'll have a little time for Q&A. First, let me talk a little bit about my travel. Yeah, I love to travel. My love for travel actually started during my childhood, but I didn't really have any opportunity to travel when I was young, except following my mother to visit my maternal grandparents in Singapore by train from Teluk Intan to Tapa Road and then Kuala Lumpur and Singapore. My first real overseas trip only happened when I was studying engineering in University of Malaya, and when I teamed up with a few classmates of mine to organize an overseas study tour. We visited Bangkok and Hong Kong for about 2 weeks. And then after graduation, I got married. When my wife and I didn't have our honeymoon until some 3 years later. We spent about 1 week in Taiwan. And so then we started to have children, and as our children were growing, we did mostly motoring holidays in the country. So just driving around from place to place during the school holidays and so on. So I started to really go overseas and travel to various countries from about 1992 onwards. After I started my own business in 1986. So when the financial status of my family began to improve, so I was able to travel more. And by the time I opted for semi-retirement in the year 2000, when I was 53, this Alex, so I retired at the age of 53. You know, you are 60 and you still have not retired.
Oh, I'm so envy you.
But that's a semi-retirement. So I still went to the office in the morning, and in the afternoon I did my personal things. So with more time in hand, I was able to travel more. And my wife also retired from her teaching career in 2003. Then we even had more opportunities to travel because then we were not constrained to end of the year long school holidays to do our travels. And I finally went on full retirement in the year 2006. So I was then 59 years old. So I became more or less, we call it a full-time traveler. So I traveled quite a lot actually after that. So my record was I made actually 12 trips a year. That average about 1 trip per month. So, and to date, I have visited more than 150 countries and geographical regions. As for photography, I also developed an interest for photography during my childhood. But I didn't have much money. I could only afford a very simple pinhole camera. And so from there, I gradually upgraded to better and better camera as time went on. But I never had an opportunity to attend any photography course. So I only learned photography from friends. And whenever there's an opportunity, I would attend a photo exhibition and see how other people make their photos. So also bought a few books to read about photography and all that. But I am basically, I treat photography not so much as something, I mean, an object to enjoy in. So I take photography as a tool to help me record my travels. So it's secondary to my travel. Travel is still number one to me. But I need photos to help me remember all the travels by, because our memory is rather short. So in addition to all the photos I make during my travels, I also keep a very detailed diary to record the places I visited, the things I did and all that. So that I need all this so that I will be able to write travel stories, So that's another interest of mine. I will come to that shortly. As a travel photographer, my interest is very wide. I will cover everything from landscape to people to buildings, wildlife, museum, exhibits, cultural performances, sports, weddings, special events, and everything. So, and I've been lucky to have won a few prizes in photo contests. So it so happened I also fell in love with writing when I was still in primary school, and I started to contribute pieces of my writing to magazines in Standard 6. And I became very active, very active in writing, not necessarily, not travel stories then, because I didn't really have much opportunity to travel when small. So I wrote different articles. I even attempted to write poems, prose, short stories, mainly in Chinese. So I contributed to various magazines and also newspapers. And but when I was in the university, I continued to write, until when I was in my third year or so, something happened and I became quite disillusioned, and I stopped writing. I stopped writing altogether. And after graduation, when I started working and building up my family and so on, I didn't write at all, nothing. until 1995, when I started to do more travels, and I felt that some of my travels were worth sharing with friends, not just through words of mouth, but through my writing as well. So I started to write travel stories, also mainly in Chinese, but I also write in English, and I contributed such stories to newspapers and magazines. To date, I have published 7 books. 5 of them are Chinese travel storybook, and 1 English travel storybook, and the last one that was published in April this year is my memoir. It's in Chinese. I also help the Institution of Engineers Malaysia to compile a coffee table book on engineering heritage of Malaysia. So to date, from Standard 6 to date, I have about 1,000 Chinese and English articles published in various newspapers and magazines. Okay, my involvement with Malaysian Nature Society. I joined the Malaysian Nature Society as a family member in 1980. So then my children were growing up, so I wanted to take them to participate in outings to waterfalls and places of nature, organized mainly by the Malaysian Nature Society Pathfinder Group, because I wanted my children to have a love for nature. I wanted them to be nature lover like me. And my first outing with the photo group actually was in 2001 when I joined the trip to Maleo Basin, organized at that time by Yapok San and Alex Foong together. Correct, Alex?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that was a wonderful trip, and that actually started my love for trekking also, you know. So before that, I hardly did any trekking. So I love nature, but I didn't really go into trekking at that time. So until after this trip to Maleo Basin, and that was also the trip when I was actually in the transition period from between analog camera and digital camera, you know. So before that, we were all using analog cameras for photography. Then the digital cameras became more and more popular from about that time onwards. So I decided to switch to digital photography in 2001. So, and I've participated a few photo exhibitions organized by MNS Selangor Branch photography group. Okay. So, all right. So this is a world map. So I did not, as I mentioned earlier, I did not actually make a world trip, not a single world trip, but I covered all 7 continents of the world in all my travels over the years. So what I'm going to present in my slideshow will be photos from 30 countries and geographical regions, starting from, of course, our own country, Malaysia, 01, 02, 03, and all that. following the number, number 10. So one round, one complete round in the anti-clockwise direction, and then finally back to Malaysia. So there will be altogether 300 photos, with 10 photos from each country or geographical region. So what I will do is I will let slideshow run automatically with 5 seconds interval between one photo and the next. So, and each photograph is numbered and captioned at the bottom. So I think with 5 seconds interval, you should have ample time to read the caption. So in case you have any query pertaining to any particular photo, please just note down the photo number. Then it's easier for me to refer back to that photo later on during the Q&A. All right.
want to ask you, you didn't show your Antarctica images?
Yeah, I did. It's Antarctic, actually Antarctic Peninsula. We just a small part of the whole continent. The whole continent is very large, you know. So usually the cruise to so-called Antarctica only takes you to the little, you know, finger sticking out from the continent towards the southern tip of South America. That is called the Antarctic Peninsula. So the cruise usually just take you to visit a few places on that peninsula, and then in the return trip, they will take you to visit probably Falkland Islands, then you go to Montevideo, the capital of Uruguay, and then finally you end up in Buenos Aires, the capital of Argentina.
So you didn't get down to walk around in Antarctica lah?
Yeah, I think we landed in, remember the Gen 2 penguin colony?
Yes.
That's in the Antarctic Peninsula. When you take a cruise to Antarctica like this, you are very much at the mercy of the weather, you know. So you see, right at the beginning, the captain of the ship will warn you that according to the itinerary, we are supposed to land here, here, and here. But whether you actually get to land or not depends very much on the weather. So in the morning, when you first arrive at that place, the weather may appear to be very good. But depending on what kind of ship you travel in to that place, you know. So for a good visit to Antarctic Peninsula, that you get to visit all the places listed in your itinerary, you should join a small ship with very few passengers. Because if you join a large ship, like we did last time, I made a mistake. I joined a large ship with about maybe 600 or 800 passengers. You know, the penguin colony is a small place, you know. So at any one time, that place cannot take too many visitors. It can probably take maybe 30 or 30 visitors or so. So when you have a large group of visitors on board a ship, you are divided into many groups. So you visit, each group will probably have a certain amount of time to spend on the colony, and then you wait for the next group and so on. So if the weather remains good throughout the day, then you are lucky that all the groups you get to visit the place.
But you're talking about taking a smaller boat, but getting across to the
Drake Strait.
Yes.
That's a very rough sea. So
even a big ship also you throw. I will definitely throw. Yeah.
No, that depends on the weather again. So we were very lucky actually when we were crossing the strait. The weather was good, so the sea was not rough at all. And then usually I don't suffer from seasickness, so I don't have that problem. But those who are very prone to seasickness, then you probably have to take some precautions. You have to take seasickness pill beforehand or what. But that's one thing, like you cannot avoid that.
Mee Poon, I also saw your images on Faroe Islands, on the waterfall in Faroe Islands. Nowadays, I heard that when you want to take that particular waterfall, you need to pay about 500 ringgit to get into the private land for that particular viewpoint.
When we went there, no, it's all free.
What year was that?
Faroe Islands,
Yes.
About Faroe Islands,
Yeah, 1502.
No, you're talking about Faroe Islands,
Yes.
Faroe Islands, let me see. I visited in May 2018, not too long ago.
Alex.
Yes.
Yeah, the waterfall is still free now. It's still free. It's only that some of the area that the floating lake. I think Chin, have you been to the floating lake in Faroe Islands? That one you have to hike like 2 hours into the
Yes,
lake.
yes.
That one
I
we
heard
have to
you
pay
need to
that
pay
one.
about 500 ringgit just to enter.
Yes, that one is about 500. It's over 300 Danish kroner or something like that.
Yeah. Okay.
You visited Faroe Island, Alex?
Yes.
Not
I
me, not
visited in 2019. Lucky I went.
Oh, just before the COVID-19.
Before the COVID.
Yeah, very lucky.
Yeah, Miss Gina, I see some of your photos. You went to like this exotic places like Jordan, Uzbekistan, and all that. You follow an organized tour, or is it a specialized tour, a customized tour, or what?
Most of the tours are actually organized by me as independent travels. But some of the places are because the public transport was not so not so extensive lah. So there are many places that there's no public transport to those places. So you have to hire a car. You have to drive. So normally I prefer to use public transport, either train or bus, to get to those places I want to visit. But when I really have a difficulty reaching those places, even in France, such a developed country, for certain places I got to hire a car to go around. For the visit in Uzbekistan, we actually is pre-arranged. That's pre-arranged. Actually, not that's actually not by me, but by Wendy Chin. Wendy Chin. So beforehand, she contacted me, asking me whether I like to visit Uzbekistan, Central Asia, all the stan countries.
All the stans.
Together with her, I say yes, why not? So then she went ahead to do the arrangement and all that. So, but most of the trips are actually independent travels organized by me.
So you go yourself and then you plan and then you go yourself. Because if you go on organized trip, sometimes you don't have much photo opportunities to take. There will be so many tourists and all that.
My wife was my travel buddy actually for most of the trips, just the two of us. Even our visit to Central America, covering all the 7 countries in the umbilical cord connecting North America and South America. The 8 countries, actually including the southern part of Mexico, together with 4 Western Caribbean countries. So we visited 12 countries in one trip, over a period of a little more than 4 months. So only 2 of us, my wife and me. So
very adventurous.
So I invited some friends to join, and in fact some friends at the beginning indicated their interest. They say, "Oh, I'm very keen. Wow, this is a once in a lifetime trip. I must join you and all that." But when the time came, invariably they have all kinds of excuses why they could not join. So it usually happens like that. So it's not easy to get a buddy, we know some of the speakers at Photo Jam, I have already mentioned. You want to get somebody to travel with you, that person has to meet certain conditions. Number 1, I must share the same interest as you. They must be physically fit as you. Must be financially as independent as you. And then if traveling not with the other half, not with the better half, but the better half must give you the go ahead and all that. See, and then you must be able to go for as long a period as you have planned. So all these, all kinds of constraints. So some people may have the interest, but may not have the financial means, may not have the time, or may not have the physical fitness, or may not have left home for so long before. So fall homesick, after 2 weeks, just about 2 weeks, oh, I'm homesick. I cannot carry on with you anymore. I want to go home. How? And you have planned a trip. You have planned a trip for 4 months. So you cannot.
It's
So what was your-
very simple, performance bond.
Forfeit the bond.
So what was your longest trip abroad? What was your longest
Yeah,
trip?
that was my longest trip, like 4 months plus.
4 months. Wow.
So, but there's nothing compared with the Masales, the Westerners. When I was in Ecuador, doing my this Galapagos trip. So of course, we didn't visit just Galapagos, we also visited the rest of Ecuador. So when I was in Ecuador, actually, I met a family, who was traveling in a sort of camper van, self-modified the camper van, actually modified from pickup or pickup truck. They started from this Quebec in Canada, and their plan was to cover the whole of North America and South America in 2.5 years.
Wow.
2.5 years, they talk about years, we talk about months. So we are nothing compared with them.
Well, we're waiting for them to, they come up with some questions. Mee Poon, what type of camera equipment actually do you carry with you during your trip, and what are the type of lenses that you bring along?
Yeah,
Because I see that the camera equipment is actually a burden. So you minimize, So what are your travel lenses? Yeah.
Yeah, I believe in traveling light. Now you see my luggage, my luggage, even for the 4 months trip, weigh not more than 10 kilograms. It's just a small backpack, medium-sized backpack. So I don't carry very heavy photographic equipment also. I have a camera bag. Nowadays I use Olympus, the Olympus OMD with the EM1 Mark II lens, and I have 2 other lenses. One is a professional lens, mainly for indoor use. It's a fast lens, the fixed aperture of 1.2. And then I have also a super wide angle lens, in case sometimes you get into very restricted place, confined place, and you want to capture the whole thing. So your normal lenses become quite useless. So I need a super wide angle like this. So I carry 3 lenses altogether with just 1 camera body, and no tripod, no monopod also. And I never use RAW. Never use RAW. I don't know this Photoshop and all that. So just simple adjustment to my photos using the tools that come with my camera. You adjust the brightness, the contrast, tilt a bit, do some cropping. That's all. That's how I did do my photos.
So gone are the days that you bring along the 28-300.
So that's too heavy. So I phased that out already. That's very heavy. So I prefer 28 to 300 zoom lens. That is, to me, is a one lens covers all things. So because I use it, as I mentioned earlier, as a tool to help me remember my travels by. So So I need a wide angle for the scenery, the cityscape and all that, buildings and all that. And I need the long lens for wildlife, for birds, or details of something that interests me. So I don't want to keep changing lenses. That's too time consuming, and then I carrying too many lenses increase my burden. So that's why I opt for a single zoom lens like that covers a wide range of focal lengths. So that's it.
Yeah, there's a question I think from Vince Adam. It says, wondering how much should you save for your 4-month trip in Central and South America plus the 4 Caribbean islands?
How much I save?
Now, how much do one save for? How much that means? How much they cost actually for the 4-month trip in Central and South America plus the 4 Caribbean islands?
Well, I got to look into my diary to actually see the cost, because that trip actually was done in 2011, 10 years ago. So we I would say it didn't cost very much, because see, of the 8 countries on the umbilical cord connecting North America and South America, we move from one country to the next overland, no flying, no flights. So just by local transport, by bus, usually by bus. You don't get any train service in those countries. So, and then sometimes you go to charter a taxi. But those countries are not very expensive places to visit. So you need a good guidebook, to help you do the planning, to draw up your itinerary and so on. And then and some of the countries are rather small. So about 1 week is good enough for you to cover the important places that you shouldn't miss in some of these small countries. So countries like Mexico, which is quite big, then we spent 3 weeks there, slightly more than 3 weeks to cover Mexico. And then Cuba, we spent 2 weeks. The rest of the places, this Dominican Republic, 1 week. The rest are about 1 week each. Dominican Republic, this Cayman Islands, Jamaica, and then Panama, Costa Rica, Honduras, and all that. All about 1 week each. So, but is actually visiting the Caribbean islands are more difficult, because they appear to be very close to each other on the map, and yet there is no direct transport connecting them. So, for example, you want to go from Cuba to Jamaica, you thought that you could just fly over there, or you take a ferry across the sea, and you get there. But no such service. There's no such service. You may have to fly to Panama City, and then take another flight to Jamaica. You fly from Cuba to Panama City, and then from Panama City you fly to Jamaica. So that costs a bit. That pulls up your cost quite a bit. But other than that, those places are not expensive to visit. Cuba is one place you should take note if you are planning to go to Cuba, because of the American sanction. So your credit cards and all that are quite useless there. And then don't bring US dollars to Cuba to change to local currency. You can bring sterling pounds, euro, or even Sing dollars, you know. Then you do the normal money changing there. They follow the usual the normal exchange rate between currencies. But if you use US dollars to buy the local currency, straight away they will deduct 10% first. Then only they follow the exchange rate, you know. That means you get 10% less. This is how they hit back at the USA.
So can use WeChat or WeChat Pay, you know, I think can.
WeChat Pay, no, I don't think so. And then so they have got two prices, you know, one for foreigners and one for local. So even you go by bus or you stay in a homestay or hotel in Cuba, you pay foreigners price. But even that is not really expensive. It's still cheap. But the local to the local is it can be 10 times cheaper, you know, the local. They use two different currencies. The foreigners use what they call CUC.
Okay, I think there's a question coming from John Yo.
Okay. Oh yes, just that I'm interested in your Machu Picchu trip. You trek up there. Do you need to trek up, or do you take transport up to Machu Picchu?
No, it's not necessary to trek. We did the Inca Trail trek because we wanted to do trekking there. So because the Inca Trail trek is quite famous, you know, it's one of the famous trekking trails in the world. Because you follow the King's Way, you know, what they call the King's Way. The trail actually was built during the Inca Empire for food and drinks, I mean liquor and all that, to be delivered to the king, you know, from various parts of the empire. So we trek on such trails. So the trekking was supposed to take 5 days from the starting point, and you end at Machu Picchu itself. So it's very, very good. But you need not do that if you don't want to do trekking. You can go by bus to the place called of course Carinthas hot spring. I mean hot spring, which is at the bottom, I mean at the foot of the hill where Machu Picchu is. So from there will be another bus take you up the zigzag road to Machu Picchu at the top of the mountain.
But the interesting is the Inca Trail, as you say.
If you like trekking, it's quite good because you get to go past some other Inca relics, you know. They are old, maybe old village or what's left of the old villages and all that on the way. And then you camp. So this has to be organized. You cannot do it on your own. You have to organize. So one of the local tour companies can provide all the necessary service. A guide plus a few chefs have to pitch the tents for you, cook for you, and all that.
How long is the hike? How long is the hike?
5 days.
5 days.
And how do you come back?
After you visit Machu Picchu, you can come back by bus to Cusco.
So one way only.
You track one way. You need not track all the way back. You track one way.
Interesting. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
There's another question, Mee Poon, from Lim Hot Land. I think what he asked is, how do you overcome the language barrier, as some countries do not speak English, like in Southern America, they speak Spanish. How do you communicate? I think basically he's asking that. Yeah.
Well, in hotels, normally those hotels that take in foreigners, there will be at least one receptionist who speak some English. It's not too much of a problem. You can always overcome that. So if you have nowadays with our smartphone and all the Google Translate and all that, things are even easier. So in the earlier days when we didn't have such facilities, I rely on my guidebook. You know, I like to travel around with a guidebook in hand. That's my Bible. Like when I first went to Russia, for example, during my first trip to Russia, you know, Russia more or less just open up, you know, just open up to tourism. So big hotel, you know, you go to places like Moscow or St. Petersburg, such big cities. You look at the hotel, wow, very impressive, big hotel. You go in there, the receptionist, none of them speak English, not a word of English, you know. You try to make it very simple. Room, you have a room, and they don't understand. They look at you, and they give you the impression that it's better you don't come and bother me. It's better you disappear. You know, that kind of attitude. You know? So then what do? You have to use a lot of sign language, right? I want a place to stay. Or easier actually is for you to refer to the back of your guidebook, where there's a glossary, you know, of commonly used words, Russian words. So you copy from there, room, what do we call room? And then you copy from there, write it on a piece of paper and push it in front of the receptionist, and she will understand what you want. Right? So you somehow you can solve the problem. You have to use your ingenuity. So nowadays with your smartphone is even easier, much easier.
Somehow you can.
Oh yeah, somehow we managed. 18 was more difficult. See, like stay now, you have problems like that. You go to a restaurant, you want to order, and they don't have pictures like what you have in Japan. You know, Japan, if you don't speak Japanese, that they may not speak English, but at least they have a lot of pictures, you know, of different food that they serve. So you just point at one picture, you say, I want this, then you get it, you get what you want. But in Russia, there's no pictures, and then you don't know how, you can't read their menu, and they can't speak English, they don't know what you want. So the best thing is you look at your neighbor, those people already eating there, and see what they are eating, and then you think one of them is eating something that you may also like. Then you point at that person, I want that. Then you get your food. But buying like the first time I traveled on the Trans-Siberian Railway, buying my train ticket was a big problem. So I didn't you cannot go online to buy your train tickets, you know. You have to go to the railway station and buy. And then none of the ticket sellers speak English. And then we don't speak a word of Cyrillic. Then what do? So I did what I told you earlier, refer to the back of my guidebook, look at the glossary, write down all the Cyrillic work on the name of the destination you want to go to, what kind of seats you want in the train, how many of you, when you are going, the date and the time. So you write all this down on a piece of paper and push it to the ticket seller. So if the ticket seller should understand what you want, and if all that you want is available, then no problem. She will give you the ticket, you pay the money, done. But sometimes what you want is not available. So she will speak, blah, 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 blah. It's not available, but you don't understand what she's talking. So you wonder, well, whether she doesn't understand your writing or what, you don't know what she's talking. So you turn to the back, those people queuing behind you, and see whether any of them can help you. None of them, they all stare at you with a blank face. Then what do? And you are holding up the queue, you know. So, and the ticket seller got very impatient with you and asked you to move on. make way for those people behind you. But the moment you leave the queue, you want to join another queue, you have to join the queue right at the back, you know. So that's a very frustrating, and sometimes you're buying tickets like that. But luckily now after so many years, they have improved. They have improved quite a lot. At least now they have 2 places for selling tickets now, you know. So some of the bigger railway stations, they have another ticket office upstairs in the building that caters specifically to foreigners. So the ticket sellers speak English. So easier. And then they also allow you to buy tickets in advance, you know, for not only for your immediate sector, but also sectors after that. So you can buy tickets in advance, but you have to pay a little fee for that convenience.
Good evening, Mr. Chin. Just want to know that you are traveling independently. What are the common difficulties that you encounter if people plan to do it?
Common difficulty.
In most of the countries that you have traveled, like what are the things that we should take note?
Yeah, if you plan your trip well, you draw up. I tell you what I do what I normally do. So as I mentioned earlier, I usually rely on a travel guidebook. You know, if you go to bookshops like NPH and all that, you find they have a section on travel guidebooks. You know, the most popular travel guidebooks nowadays are either Lonely Planet or Rough Guide. So I use these two. So, and Rough Guide to me is as good as Lonely Planet. You know, Lonely Planet has got a longer history than Rough Guide. But Rough Guide is catching up in its coverage. It's covering more and more countries as time goes on. And Rough Guide is cheaper. Usually is cheaper than Lonely Planet. Sometimes about 30% cheaper. You know. So, and guidebooks are not cheap. Actually, usually they cost you around 100 ringgit each and all that. But then if you compare the cost, I mean the amount of money you are going to spend on your trip, then 100 ringgit is nothing, isn't it? But it helps you tremendously. So of course, some people say, oh, I can always go online to get the information I want. I tried that, you know, actually, but I find that it's not really that easy to go online. And then you go online, okay, you find bits and pieces of information here and there, and you put them all together. You have to print them out, you know, you print them out on loose sheets of paper, and then somewhere you also got to organize that. Then you try to bring that along for your trip. So I still find that I'd rather spend 100 ringgit on a guidebook. Everything is there, well organized for you, and then go with the index at the back for easy reference. So I spend that, and then that book also comes quite useful, you know, because it also gives you a historical background of the places you are going to visit, so you get to understand that place a little bit more. It helps tremendously in your homework.
Do you pre-book all your accommodation before you go?
Normally I don't, and I normally choose my time of travel to any particular place to be away from the peak season of that place. So I try to avoid the peak season. I normally go on the shoulder period, either before or after the peak season, so that the clouds are not there, and accommodation will be more freely available. Things are cheaper and all that. But sometimes some places it seems that you just cannot avoid the peak season. You just have to go during the peak season, you know, because that place is at its best in that period. Like if you want to visit Donkgedank, you have to go in late autumn. That's where all the foliage has turned into multicolor, the yellow, red, and all that coupled with the colors of the water, I know that is the most beautiful at that time of the year. If you go at any other period, the crowds will be less, things are cheaper and all that, but the place is not as beautiful as you would like it to be. So some places you just cannot avoid it. You have to go during the peak season. So, but normally I try to avoid the peak season. So accommodation is usually not a problem. So, and I normally like to use public transport, moving from one place to another, either train or bus. So you get out from the railway station or the bus station. Normally you find a lot of hotels around the station, catering to all budgets. You have 5-star hotels. You also have budget hotels. So it's easy, very easy to. So we just go to the nearest hotel, look at it. Appears to be clean and it's convenient. It's near the station, so for your next sector, it's very easy. You just get back to the station and then you move on to the next place. Very easy. So if that place happens to be full, there are other hotels. But of course, sometimes certain, unexpected things may happen. So, for example, like even though it's not the peak season, but sometimes they organize special events. A conference may be taking place in that place, in that town, and then most of the hotels are taken up, by those conference attendees. Then what do? You ask a few hotels, and then they are all full. But usually in Western countries, so this I find that the hotel receptionists are very helpful. So you tell them, hey, please help me I'm looking for a room. My budget is so much. What kind of room and all that? Your budget is so much. Can you please help me get a place? She will, usually she will call up. She will call up and keep calling up until she gets one for you. Usually, so far I have never really got into a situation where I got panicked because I could not get accommodation. So
one more question, Mr. Chin. How do you gauge the safety of each place that you travel?
You see, there is no place on earth that's 100% safe. Even you go to places like Switzerland, they say this is a very safe place. You go to New Zealand, everybody will tell you New Zealand is very safe. But how safe it is, there are still a few black sheep around. So no matter where you go, you just have to be careful and take the usual precautions. Don't expose don't make yourself stand out among the crowds. So that everybody straight away knows that this fellow is a foreigner. And so that means that you don't dangle your camera in front of your chest like that, so telling the whole world that you are a tourist. So after years, put the camera back into the bag. Then you need to shoot, make some photograph, then only you take it out. After use, immediately put it back. Don't follow the Japanese, just dangle the camera over your neck and all that. And then you dress as simply as possible. Don't wear all your costume jewelry and don't do that. And you try to blend in and don't go to dark, forlorn places, especially at night. So if you take such precautions, normally you should be all right.
Thank you, Mr. Chin. Yeah,
You're
thank
welcome.
you.
Any more questions from the others? I think it's a very good what you call Zoom meeting this evening. Mr. Chin has traveled almost everywhere in the world. Have you been to Arctic, Chin?
No, not yet.
Not yet,
You are the North Pole, you want to go to stand
Yes.
at the North Pole and take a photo on the ice.
Yes.
I haven't done that.
Mr. Chin has come up with several what I call photo books on his travels. But apparently, I've collected his books supporting him. But it's all in Mandarin. I keeping it, but I looking at good, nice pictures. Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Mrs. Chin Mee Poon, for sharing with us this evening. On your what I call travels. Obviously, Chin Mee Poon has come up with travel images and not what I call hardcore photography type of images. So it's more on travel photos. I enjoy it, and actually some of them are very well taken. Indeed, most of it. And I hope Chin can in future can come back to share more specifically on certain places, and not rushing it through within 60 minutes throughout the whole world. Fast, every picture only got 5 seconds. We want to explore the pictures and want to ask questions, but you move too fast. I feel that is what I feel. Yeah, moving too fast. 100 pictures. 5 seconds pictures. Yeah, but anyhow, anyway, it's a nice sharing. Thanks, Mr. Chin.
Thank you again, once again, Alex and your committee for giving me this opportunity to share my travels and photos with people like you. Okay.
Thank you.
Good night. Good night to everybody.
Good night.
Thank you.
Bye.